My name is Joe Dalton, entrepreneur and business coach. Welcome to Breakthrough Brands. Each week we bring you an inspirational story and an insight to the minds of some of the top business leaders, authors and mentors from around the globe. Whatever is needed to make you shine in life and business, you'll find it here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joseph McGuire, standing in for the great man Joe Dalton today, having a well-earned break. And my guest today in the studio is Greg Fry. Greg, you're very welcome.
It's great to be here, and it's going to be a great session.
Looking forward to it, absolutely. I've been having a read of your bio, and it's very impressive. In fact, it's exhausting to read because you're covering so many areas. You're a man of many, many talents. Just to read a couple of extracts from it. You're an international social media trainer, delivering regular LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, digital video and social business strategy training and workshops for institutions such as the Digital Marketing Institute, Sure Skills and the Digital Skills Academy, and a lot more besides. How do you cope, Greg, with that workload?
Well, I suppose I passionately live the world of social media. I'm very, very passionate about it. I believe that there's far too many organisations and individuals working in organisations that are busy fools. So ultimately, that's my thing, is to help companies build strategies that give business return on investment from their social media efforts. And obviously we don't need to be on Pinterest and Instagram and Snapchat and LinkedIn and write 26 blogs and do a live stream all in one moment. So it's about finding the right fit for the right organisation.
Of course, yeah. I will come back to that because there's loads of questions waiting. But if we can just go right back to the beginning, just a little bit of information about who is Greg Fry and how did you get into social media?
How did I get into social media? God, that was a trapdoor of sorts a number of years ago. Many, many moons ago, I worked in the recruitment industry, and we got into troubled times in the recruitment world where this big R started to happen, called the recession. Mm-hmm. So like a fool, what did Greg Fry decide he would do? He decided to set up his own business coming into a recession. Now, that's not even the best bit, Joseph. The business I set up was a career coaching business, so to help people with their careers. What I was seeing in the recruitment industry was there was so many people trapped and miserable and unhappy in their jobs. So I thought this would be great to help them. Now, the reality is everyone was petrified to leave a job, and anyone that didn't have a job couldn't find a job. So I was offering a product that probably wasn't that useful at that particular time. So with divorce looming and maybe seeing my kids on the weekend as the business didn't take off the way I'd envisaged it, I had to embrace the world of social media, a bit like a long lost lover, to get out there to tell people who I was, what I did and what value I could offer them. And on the back of that, somehow the career consultancy business started to work, and I started to build business. I started to help people with interview techniques, help people write CVs, and I started to survive. And divorce wasn't looming on the horizon anymore. But out of that came something called personal branding. So probably my niche turned into helping people brand themselves better in or outside a job. So they attracted either the boss that was looking to hire a more senior person in their team, or someone looking to hire someone from out in the workplace. And one massive part of personal branding was social media. So that's where the whole social media thing started. And then I started working with startups, the local enterprises as they were called back then, and now local enterprise offices. And on the back of that, I got a phone call from the very impressive Digital Marketing Institute saying, Greg, will you do a Facebook lecture for us tonight? And with no lecturing experience, like a complete fool, I said yes. And we've never looked back. We've never looked back. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Excellent. And it'd be fair to say you're one of the pioneers of social media here in Ireland.
Yeah, well, I'll leave that for other people to say, well, but it's lovely. But certainly I've been active and certainly passionate in the space in the Irish industry for a good number of years now.
Well, I'm perfectly happy to say it on behalf of others and myself, of course. But you're not only one of the pioneers, you're clearly one of the most informed as regards to the proper use of social media. And there's so many questions arising from it because, as we know, you talked about busy fools in a different context. There are so many people who are permanently active on social media and like to present as if they're busy in a productive way but aren't. Would you have any general guidelines as to how to find the best form of social media, the best platform to use?
Yeah, loads of guidelines. So I mean, I think to a certain extent, people get obsessed with the technology. They also got to get obsessed with what the Joneses are doing and copy what the Joneses are doing. Now, the reality is most businesses are doing social media badly, so stop copying bad practices. That's the first thing. Also remember that it's using the right technology, but there's got to be psychology behind that technology. So ask yourself the very simple question: which platforms, if any, are my customers hanging out on, and would they like to engage, hang out and communicate with me there? And the reality is, yes, your customer may be on Facebook, but no, your customer does not want to hear about your particular technical product or service on that particular platform. So it's about marrying, getting the right message out to the right audience on the platform that they want to engage with you on.
And if you want to take it as a neophyte in terms of social media.
Sure.
If you want to dig behind the scenes to find out where your customers are active, are there particular tools you recommend to do that?
Well, yeah, the best tool that I have to do that, and this is very unscientific and technical of me, is your mouth. And that's actually, I mean, I'm an old school kind of guy, even living in a social media world. It's talk to your goddamn customers and find out what they are. Don't read an article on the Social Media Examiner that's geared for the US market and make an assumption. There's far too many people making decisions based on articles and assumptions when their customers and their audience is there to actually ask directly. So it sounds very unscientific, but bizarrely enough, just saying, if I'm targeting 15 to 25-year-old students, are you on Snapchat or Instagram? Do you use Facebook? It's just asking a simple question will give you an intelligent answer that you can make a decision on. And then what you do is you go onto that platform and you test the impact of what you're doing on it.
Okay. And if you're newly starting out, because I engage with a lot of startups, and you don't have an audience as such, you aspire to an audience, aspire to a target market. Do you advise the same approach?
It's exactly the same approach. And I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity when we don't have a customer, but we would have what you would call a customer or client persona in mind of who would be your ideal customer, who would be the different types of customer that you would target to go out and to talk to those people and find out what they want, not only for your marketing, but even to figure out what kind of product you should be actually, or service you should be actually gearing towards them.
And in terms of the different platforms, because there are so many different social media avenues out there now, are there particular methodologies then that you especially recommend to use?
Absolutely. You can be on the right platform where your customers are hanging out and they're open to engaging with you, and you can start shouting at them, start selling at them, showcasing zero personality on that platform, and you will have zero success. And the biggest trick I often have for startups, which sounds so simple, but it works, is behave exactly like you do in the real world. So if you say things in a certain way, from a warmth and a tone and a language perspective, that's the tone you need to use online. So be gregarious, be friendly. No one's ever literally typed into YouTube and search for a boring accounting video. We don't do it. We want people that are real. We want people that are friendly. We want people that are warm. And so often small businesses are so nearly intoxicating when you meet them in the real world. They're passionate about what they do, but online they're beige.
Yes.
They're bland. Yeah. They've got no personality. So always challenge yourself that if I was speaking to an audience or to a prospective client in a room, how smiley, how happy, what language would I use? That's what I've got to mirror on that social media platform. There's a term I love, and I'm gonna hit you with it, right? which I think is great for this. When you're saying something online and you've selected the right social media platform or platforms to use, think of this word, edutainment. So I'm a big fan of this word. So you've got to educate your customer about your product and service, so they understand what you have to offer them. But because the social media world is a social world and people are essentially hanging out there and there's lots of distractions going on there, you've got to entertain them if they're going to hang around to consume your message. So I'm not suggesting we need to be funny and stand-up comedians and court jesters, but we need to entertain our audience enough so they can be educated and actually feel excited enough to want to come and do business with us.
So in many ways that's an old message for new times, because I remember the original motto for the BBC was to inform, educate and entertain.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing really.
Exactly.
Now I do a lot of business networking, and I meet quite a number of people who really have adopted a persona that they see as being the business persona and clearly aren't communicating their real selves. And you're obviously advising to make sure you know who you are before you present yourself on social media.
Exactly. It's very difficult to be two people. There's only one Greg Fry, and that's enough. God, the thought of having two of me would be a nightmare. So it's much easier to be yourself than it is to be someone else. So as an organisation, bear in mind people do business with people. They don't do business with logos, particularly as a startup. It's you, it's brand you that people are going to invest in. It's brand you that people are going to buy off. So make sure that personality has a chance to shine to its max. And don't worry about being too wooden or worrying about things too much. Just be the professional version of you.
And one of the big areas there that the estimate is that 80% of all social media traffic, maybe even all online traffic by the next year will be 80% will be video.
Yeah.
And obviously that's an area that terrifies a lot of people.
Yeah.
Any particular advice on that one?
Yeah, well, I suppose that the reality is video has become a big deal. Now, Cisco are the providers of that statistic, or keep banging their drum about that statistic. Now, just to put that into context is, we're all watching Netflix. So a lot of the content that we're watching on TV, I've subscribed to 11 Sports, which is essentially a live streaming sports channel. So all that data being used is video data, and video takes up more space on the internet than photographs do and text is. So that's where that massive figure of 80% is coming from. So we're not going to replace visuals and blogs with purely video in less than 6 months. So we can exhale a little bit. It's not that scary. But there's no doubt that most people listening in today have probably watched some sort of video on their mobile phone in the last day or week at the very least. Yeah. It could be a little video on their Facebook page or in Instagram. It could be something on YouTube. We've typically watched something. So we've become used to consuming video. Mobile phone companies no longer charge us €76 to send a video by text. Data's come down, so we can all afford to consume video. So video's become a quick, snappy way to communicate. So bearing in mind, video is something that if you consume, your audience will want to consume. So get over yourself. Yeah. Stop being scared of it. Get over yourself and embrace it. Because if you're watching video, your customers will too. When it comes to video, it's just to bear in mind, just to be yourself. If you don't have to put yourself on video to market your business. If I am naturally appalling on camera, I should do radio.
Yeah.
Or I should literally maybe create a video with some different images and talk about my products and services. I can produce video in many different ways to tell my story. It doesn't have to be a big scary camera shined in my face that forces me to stumble across stuff. So just be yourself. So if you're naturally good talking offline, try and get used to talking with a camera and dare to put that content online. The worst piece of video ever created generated me more business than anything else. I broke the world record for the amount of times a human being ever said the word in a 3-minute video. I had a big tuft of hair sticking out of my head like a golden crested cockatoo, if anyone knows what they look like. I looked like my 4-year-old child had dressed me. I looked so appalling. It was the last time I attempted to wear a tie. And it was appalling. But like some fool, I put my video live online. And why was it successful? Not because of my ums or my bad dress sense. It was because somewhere between the ums and the bad dress sense, I was saying something valuable, useful, relevant and interesting to the audience that it was intended. So bearing in mind, if you're ever going to create video content, or probably any content from a social media perspective, create that content for your audience, not for yourself.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that I'd like to force upon you, Joseph, isn't necessarily the stuff that you would like to consume.
Absolutely. If your audience is resistant, you're lost.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in terms of just sticking with the video for a moment, is there an ideal length for a video? I know I switch off after a couple of minutes, almost regardless of whether the thing is interesting or not.
Yeah.
That may be just me.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing is we could probably search the web and we could get 50 people in the room and we'll probably get into a massive argument here, because the statistics to prove short video works better, and then there's other statistics that says longer video works better. I would say in a social media sense, realistically, say it's LinkedIn, 2 minutes or less would be the max that your video might need to be. But your 2 minutes may be in many ways a trailer to a longer, more in-depth, more valuable piece of video that someone would access through a webinar or a longer YouTube video. So that to me is really, really important to bear that in mind. Facebook, 30 to 60 seconds. Instagram, about 15 seconds would be good lengths when it comes to video content. And then I've touched on YouTube. If you're putting content on YouTube, people go to YouTube to consume content. So they don't mind watching something for 15 minutes because they've searched with the intentions of watching something.
Of course.
If they're watching a video on Facebook or Instagram, they're scrolling through their news feed, I've only got a short window to interrupt and grab their attention. They're not going to stop and hang out for 15 minutes.
So again, it comes back to your earlier advice: be informed as to who your audience is and be prepared.
100%.
Well, we're just going to take a short break now. After these messages, we'll return.
Broadcasting to South Dublin on 93.9. This is Dublin South FM.
Do you need a professional-looking website or graphics for your company? Does your current website work on all modern devices, such as tablets and smartphones? If not, you are losing business. Preamp Digital Media provides a full range of solutions to give your company the edge in today's digital world. Please visit www.preampdigitalmedia.com for all the information you need. That's www.preampdigitalmedia.com.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello! Here in Dublin South FM, we speak Spanish as well. Where? En Spanish en Español, every Tuesday from 3 to 4 p.m. Join us here in Dublin South FM. Hasta la vista!
I've always provided. That's what I do. Even when the job shut down, I somehow managed. But the pressure chips away at your confidence. I felt alone. I needed to talk things out. I learned Samaritans isn't just for when you hit rock bottom. I'm so glad I called.
It's always worth getting problems big and not so big off your chest. Call Samaritans. No pressure, no judgment. We're here for you. Anytime, talk to us. Free call 116 113 or go to samaritans.ie.
Hi, I'm Aeon.
Hi, I'm Isabella.
What's your favourite show?
The Power of Dreams.
When is it on?
Wednesdays from 12 to 1 on Dublin South FM.
Okay, that's all Wednesday sorted.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Okay, we hear a lot about different times and best times to post on the various platforms. Any particular thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of conflicting information there as well.
I wonder, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful how we can read an article 10 times and get 10 different answers on when we should tweet, when we should update on Facebook, and when we should put something out on LinkedIn and so on. The simple reality is, think about your business and think about your customer. When is your customer hanging around? There used to be the time when people used to say, well, people are on Facebook between this time and this time, Monday to Friday. The reality is, with mobile phones and the fact that 90% of all social media activity is consumed on a mobile phone, that people are on it 24/7. That said, if I want to engage with you, say I'm sending a consumer product, you're busy during the day, you're at work, you're distracted. You may see my update, but you don't have time to properly consume it and digest it, or to even act upon it. So what I would be saying is, think about when your customer has time to consume your message. So for a lot of products, I find certainly the weekends, typically around 9:30 to 10 o'clock at night during the week, is when kids in bed, watching television's boring, the phone comes out, they have time to consume my content. So that can work really, really well. Twitter, again, typically for me, for some bizarre reason, it's 11 a.m. on a Tuesday is the time I get the most engagement. There is no logic behind that I know of, but my audience seems to hang out there. So one of the best things to do is to test, is to try stuff at different times of the day. Social media is not Monday to Friday, it's not 9 to 5, so don't forget the evenings. And pay attention to the times of the day where you're getting the most engagement, and you may be surprised. Different audiences react slightly differently.
Of course.
Certainly in a business sense, if I'm communicating with a business community, I typically keep my posts very much during business hours, and I target people 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning before they jump into a busy business day, and I target people in the last 15 minutes of a lunch break where they're literally staring at their computer going, God, I don't feel like going back to work, and they have time to read my update. And certainly somewhere around 5:15, again, when we're waiting for the bell to go at 5:30. I don't know whether that happens anymore as an entrepreneur, but when the bell goes at 5:30, we're sitting there from 5:15, literally trying to look busy, hanging out on LinkedIn, waiting for the time to pass. So those could be good times to get people. But we really need to test our own audience and be aware that your community of 100 people may engage on a particular day at a particular time in a different way from my community.
You work internationally. Are you noticing any particular different patterns, trends in different countries? Like for one example, on a sort of day-to-day level, I guess, is we have a lot of breakfast meetings here, breakfast networking meetings in Ireland, where other countries that's just totally foreign. Yeah. And in social media terms, are there any significant differences that you're aware of?
I suppose it's the different stages in many ways of adoption is different. So we're still finding, particularly in the Irish market, whilst we nearly see the same faces creating a lot of video and running live streams, but there's a lot of faces in Ireland. So we're probably being very, very slow to adopt video. Whilst when you look at the likes of the US at the moment, we're seeing far more businesses starting to engage with their existing customers through WhatsApp and through Messenger, and maybe less emails coming in than traditionally came about. Certainly video has become part of the day-to-day toolkit that they're using from a social and communication perspective, while in Ireland, again, we're still just that little bit resistant to it. And there's platforms like Zoom, which are great for having free short video conferences or video calls with clients. And the beautiful thing about having a video call with a client that's in Cork, for example, is I'm seeing them face to face. It's saving me a bundle on travel, but I'm still building a face-to-face relationship with that prospective client. Far more powerful than the phone call, but we're still reluctant to actually make that step. So I think we're seeing that a lot. Certain countries have embraced the story format more. So what I mean by that is, if you're familiar with Snapchat or Instagram or now even Facebook, this ability to stitch together short video clips and stills that expire after a 24-hour period, becoming hugely popular and hugely important in marketing, certainly FMCG and consumer businesses in certainly the likes of the US at the moment, but in Ireland, again, it's something that we're either petrified or we just don't buy into yet, because it's a lot of work to create something that expires in 24 hours. So we're resistant to that. So we're quite slow to change on certain things. So that's probably the one thing. Then you're seeing other big countries, could be Australia, where the adoption is possibly even slower in general terms than it would be in the Irish market. So it's probably not massive differences. It's probably different adoption levels, I suppose.
And in terms then of age demographics, would it be fair to assume that millennials are quicker to adopt social media tools?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's just natural and it's normal to them. But the problem with the millennials is they're fearless. And at the end of the day, there's a big danger when you jump online. You have Billy the intern suddenly taking over your social media account, and Billy the intern says something completely nuts and mad that gets us into all sorts of hot water. So the millennials maybe don't get the business psychology, and at the end of the day, it takes a while for us to learn business savviness.
Yes.
So to suddenly have the millennial running that business, giving them the keys to the car of your social media marketing, can be a very dangerous thing, because they don't have the business savviness to go with their technology savviness, I suppose. Yeah.
And as you've said, and as is very evident, you're very passionate about what you do. You're very energetic in your presentation. Yet a lot of what we're dealing with, we in general in the world today, is people who spend their lives looking at screens rather than engaging face to face, and you've talked about the importance of that. How do you bridge that disconnect?
Well, I think, the wonderful thing is videos help them with that. So in the past, it was very dynamic to actually send 140 characters, as it was back then, tweet with a photograph. That was just groundbreaking stuff. Now we can communicate with our audience through live video. We can even share a screen live and invite our customers to participate with our live video. People can hear our voice, can sense our passion, can see our product through video. So we don't have to write a long-winded blog post talking about what it looks like with a still photograph of the packaging. So we just, in many ways, it's about letting ourselves go and literally pouring out that offline passion that we have that's confined to the walls of our business and showcasing it for the world to see online. And that's a scary thing to do. But at the end of the day, people do business with people that they feel, that they know, that they've made a connection with, that they like, that smiles, that sounds passionate and knowledgeable and intelligent. And if you can get that stuff across, the chances are you're going to get it across better on video or live video, or even through podcasting, more than you are a long-winded article with a photograph.
So no like and trust
Yeah.
still plays a major role.
Big time. Big time. And in many ways, there's people that I've never met before in my life that I feel like I know because I've either communicated with them through live video or I've consumed live video of them. So they feel very familiar, friendly, trustworthy to me, whilst they shouldn't be any more trustworthy than the guy that writes the blog post and sends the tweet without the photograph. But to me, I'm more likely to buy off that person.
That's because they've taken that extra step.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Moving on slightly, going off on a little bit of a tangent.
I love tangents. Yeah.
Facebook has been very much in the news in the last, really since the presidential election in the States.
Yeah.
And it has been a very controversial place to be for many, many reasons. Any particular overall views on it or perspectives on that?
Yeah, well, I think people are naive. That's the simple reality. There's a little word that uses or term called digital bubbles, and I think what people jump on social media or Facebook or live in a world which they think is reality. Now, the reality is their Facebook news feed is their digital bubble. It's their reality. But outside that digital bubble is my digital bubble, which is a totally different news feed with totally different things taking place on it that becomes in many ways my reality. So we've got to be aware that what we see online is what's being served up to us based on what algorithms and platforms deem we're interested in. That's the first thing. So take everything with a slight pinch of salt. The other thing is, for years people were downloading or playing Candy Crush and Farmville at the very beginning on Facebook, and we were clicking OK, and we were accepting all these permissions without reading what permissions we were giving. Back at the very beginning, Candy Crush was saying, do you allow us to post on your Facebook page? And we were saying, yeah, okay. And you probably remember the really irritating updates on Facebook. Gina challenges you to a game of Candy Crush, beat her record of 17,000. Gina didn't write that. That was that data we were giving and permissions we were giving to the third-party app to do that. So really what happened with the likes of the presidential elections and Facebook is people started to be sneaky with the data that people were offering up without reading the terms and conditions. And suddenly it came out that things are being manipulated, and suddenly everyone throws their arms up in despair. But for years, every app that we've been downloading, that we've been accepting permissions for, beyond Facebook as well, we've been giving up data. So we've just got to be a little bit more streetwise with what data we share online and who we give permission to use that data. So I know there was a little bit more of a scandal there, but I think at the end of the day, the users are slightly to blame as well when it comes to this. And we've got to be aware that what's in my news feed isn't necessarily in Joseph's news feed.
Indeed.
So I think that's a big factor. Now, you'll notice even with GDPR compliance in Ireland, and you'll probably see the US with the likes of Cambridge Analytica and Facebook going down a similar route in the near future. That, even now you go to a website like Love in Dublin, great site, good resource, big pop-up comes up and it says accept permissions. And what are we doing still? We're going okay. If you look at those permissions, you're giving Love in Dublin the ability to remarket to you, to use your data on their sister sites and yada yada. So we just need to be that little bit more intelligent to take our data into our own hands, because we're still making the same mistakes.
Of course.
Even after GDPR as a user.
Probably understandable, given that people are being continually bombarded with information.
Absolutely.
So it's easier to click yes or okay.
Exactly.
Then. Yeah.
And I mean, my rule of thumb is I don't care who markets to me. I really don't. And I don't care what I put out there, as long as what I put out there is a true representative of myself, my beliefs, if I'm putting out beliefs, and I don't share any personal data online at all of, even stuff where my my kids may go to school, or certain ages that they might be. So if I haven't put it out there, it can't be accessed. So just think about what you're putting online.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One certainly hears some scary stories as to what can be accessed from even a simple photograph.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you read about somebody like Mark Zuckerberg covering the camera on his laptop, does that sort of thing concern you?
It's kind of freaky. Now, the reality is, I welcome anyone to actually look through the camera in my laptop, because there's nothing too exciting going on. I'm not doing anything crazy or top secret or scary. So, but it is frightening. It's back to the time of if you start talking to Alexa in your home, or you say, "Hey Siri," how did Siri's
talking back to you?
But how did these devices know to listen?
Yeah.
So, of course, there is that whole big brother, what really is happening out there going on. But rather than being completely paranoid and, I suppose, paralysing yourself from leveraging the digital marketing world as a powerful business tool, just embrace it, because at the end of the day, if Siri's listening to me, listen away. I'm not saying anything particularly interesting or groundbreaking or that's going to help Apple make lots and lots of money. Just be careful about what you say. That's all.
Yes. And say it in a whisper.
Exactly. Say it in a whisper. Speak to your phone as Dave instead. Whatever. I don't know. But the reality is, we can be overly paranoid.
Of course, absolutely. And the surest sign the conspiracy is working is the complete lack of evidence. Huh?
Absolutely.
Any particular future trends that you can see coming that are going to be really worth paying attention to in social media?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, the big ones are obviously things like virtual reality and augmented reality. They're coming, and it's really the cost of creating 360-degree fully immersive video is becoming very, 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 very cheap and very, very accessible. But even more so now, people are starting to get virtual reality headsets that they have in their homes. It's a bit like CD players before, and producing CDs before anyone could afford to buy a CD player. So that's kind of where we are with virtual reality, and to a certain extent some augmented reality stuff. But it's definitely coming. So say we take the real estate company, like very, very soon we're going to be able to put on our headset, and we're going to be able to walk through and view homes and look around, and even look under the kitchen table at a mark that's there, and we'll actually have a pretty amazing experience from our living room. So that type of technology is definitely coming. That's going to be interesting to leverage. But I think in the short term, the big changes are video. Not to harp on about video, is that video is just going to come more of our day-to-day world, and we're going to communicate with more people face to face than over a phone and by email. That's just going to become a natural thing for us to do. If I'm looking for a mortgage, for example, I may be able to go onto my phone and press a button and speak face to face with a mortgage advisor, rather than try to rush through rush hour traffic to make my 4:30 appointment into the Bank of Ireland branch to meet the mortgage advisor. So that kind of stuff is definitely coming. Live video is something that's becoming, I suppose, more functional. So, for example, you're going to be able to showcase services and products, and people are going to be able to buy the product directly from the video itself. So that's definitely evolving in a big way. The story format that I mentioned, the ability to create or consume content that has a lifespan, to get today's news today or today's specials today online, and to watch Greg Fry talking about something or demoing something that happened today, not something that was recorded 3 months ago or 3 years ago. That type of instant content is definitely something that's becoming a necessity in the social media world. So that's something that I think people are struggling grasp and struggling to leech onto. And we can look at the love 'em or hate 'em with the wonderful guys in Greystones, the Happy Pair, and how they build their brand on a daily basis through sharing today's day today. And that becomes something that people want to consume.
Yes, storytelling. It's obviously increasingly important. We're paying more and more attention to it, but I still meet people who say they don't have a story to tell. How do you draw that out?
Yeah. How do we create a story? I mean, the reality is we want to showcase ourselves. So we're not necessarily all the Happy Pair, but get onto Snapchat or Instagram and start to follow people that are naturally good at talking about themselves and showcasing who they are and what they do. And you'll learn a lot from them. But at the same time, the very people that don't have a story to tell could probably chew the ear off you on a telephone. Or in a face-to-face meeting. And ultimately, what we want to do is we want to literally say, if someone comes into our shop, if we have a shop, and we say, how can we help you, and show them around. If someone walks into our cafe and we have specials today, and we've got a new member of staff that we might introduce offline. We want to look at what we do offline and figure out how could we document that online to showcase who we are today, what we're doing today, what we're offering today. And so it doesn't have to be a story in a traditional sense. I think maybe the story scares people, but I could be a leisure centre. And my story could be, I take a photograph of the beautiful pool glistening at 6 a.m. that looks amazing, with no one in it, and saying 30 minutes till we open the door, who's the first in the pool. We may have a coffee shop in the leisure centre, and we may literally showcase a picture of today's blueberry muffin, fat-free blueberry muffin, and saying today's special. We may have a suggestion or a question from a customer that we may answer online because other people may think the same question or need the same answer. And very quickly we find during our day we do 5, 6, 7 things that we could quickly document and make into a compelling story that would turn someone into connecting with us stronger and maybe wanting to come and do business with us. I know that there is that situation with the leisure centre and the pool, and there's many a 6 a.m. where I felt I didn't want to get out of bed that I've actually got out of bed because I've seen that picture.
That reminds me of a picture I took of a swimming pool many years ago, and I wanted to highlight how ugly it was because there were several dead starlings floating in it, and when I got the photo back it looked perfect, like the place you really want to go.
Yeah.
So pictures can fool you as well.
Oh, they can, absolutely.
We are coming towards the end of the programme, so I have a couple of questions we normally ask people. First of all, how can we reach Greg Fry?
I could reach Google's a great friend of Greg Fry, so you can just put Greg Fry into Google. That should work. But the organizer, one of the companies that I own, is a company called Content Plan. So it's contentplan.co, and there you'll get all my contact details. My social media handle, as they would refer to it, is Greg Fry Social. So you'll find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Greg Fry Social, or just tweet at Greg Fry Social. LinkedIn, again, type Greg Fry into LinkedIn, I'll pop up like a Christmas tree, not to mention Christmas. But it's coming, whether we like it or not.
Indeed.
But it will pop up. So you'll find me easily on LinkedIn, and bizarrely enough, I think Google Greg Fry telephone number will probably give you my mobile telephone number. So I'm not hiding online, so I'm very easy to find.
Excellent. I'm sure you'll get lots of people contacting you as a consequence of this. What is the best business advice you've ever received?
The best business advice, well, there's a lot of it, to be honest with you. But the best business advice is be the best version of yourself and stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. Now, it's very important in business that we look at our competitors, if we call them competitors, but we look at the industry and we look at strengths and weaknesses and we look at opportunities that we may have. But sometimes we're so obsessed with copying the guy next to us that's doing an appalling job marketing their business, and don't focus on our strengths and ourselves, that we fail. And very often on the outside looking in, an organisation that we may think is doing brilliantly is failing miserably. And it amazed me for years ago that every car ad that you ever saw on television was a car driving up a dirt track, usually up a mountain. And that was largely because all the car companies were using the same digital marketing agencies. No one was using a totally different agency to do something totally different. And particularly when it comes to social media is about standing out. It's not about blending in. In fact, if we blend in, we're camouflaged, we're not seen, and we're dead. So be the best version of yourself and stop worrying about everyone else. Stop being obsessed about the other guy.
Perfect advice in so many ways, so many areas of life, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Not just social media.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What particular business book has most influenced you, or would you most recommend?
And the weird thing is, this is me having to write a confession or verbalise a confession. I am bad at reading books. I'm not a millennium, I'm very old, but I've got kind of a millennium brain that I get distracted too easily. Certainly, I like Gary Vaynerchuk. I like his books more from an inspirational perspective. He gets me pumped up and excited. But from a business perspective, there's a website. So a lot of us are now consuming blogs rather than books. So in the social media world, which we're talking about today, the Social Media Examiner to me still is the best social media resource for businesses, particularly for small businesses. So if you want to find out how to do Facebook ads or the latest trends or technologies, Social Media Examiner is a great resource. So I would probably read, rather than read a book, I would probably read 6 or 7 articles on the Social Media Examiner, as well as other publications on a weekly basis. So that's the resource rather than book that I would probably point people to.
Excellent. What makes Greg Fry happy?
This sounds a bit cheesy and geeky, and my apologies to anyone listening that cringes, but what makes me happy is making other people happy. So I get a really big buzz out of other people being happy. If other people are smiling, Greg Fry is smiling. I love to see clients get results. If they're not getting results, I'm miserable. And in fact, I won't even. I'd feel very, very awkward. So it's really helping people. At the end of the day, if I wasn't in the social media world and I went back in a time machine, I would probably have got into some sort of counselling, because helping people is always been my passion. So in the business sense, I'm passionate about helping people get results from their social media efforts, rather than making a bunch of noise that sounds great but actually amounts to nothing.
And it does make such a difference, doesn't it, in terms of building sustainable, lasting relationships and spreading the word in a very positive way.
It's completely, absolutely completely. I should have said money. I knew I should have said money, but actually it's not. It's helping people and making them happy.
It does lead in that direction. Yeah. It's kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive, but it's inevitable.
Here's hoping. My Ferrari's still on order now,
As long as you've still got the Lamborghini, you'll be fine.
That's true, yeah.
What song would you like us to play for you, and why?
Oh, there's a question. God, they slipped this one under. And this is the weird thing. I've just talked about being happy. My favourite band of all time, ironically, is the Smiths. And strangely enough, the Smiths always made me feel happy. They made me feel like not for a lot of people, but the Smiths always made me feel happy. So I don't know whether we can do the Smiths, but certainly the Smiths.
Please not, heaven knows I'm miserable now.
Well, that would be. So maybe Ask by the Smiths.
Perfect.
You can edit that bit out if you don't want it. But yeah, maybe that. But I have to say, sometimes something like the Smiths, again, for me, I found the Smiths completely uplifting.
Excellent. Greg, I'm absolutely thrilled to have met you this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to listening back to this because I know you've shared so many nuggets, and I know there's so much I can pick up, never mind all our listeners, and I hope people are delighted to hear what you've got to say, because you've been really generous with your advice and your tips this afternoon. So, Greg Fry, thank you very much.
It's my absolute pleasure. Loved being here, and sure, if we could have spoken for a week, I would have been happy to go on for a week.
Shyness is nice, and shyness can stop you from doing all the things in life you'd like to. Shyness is nice, and shyness can stop you from doing all the things in life you'd like to. So if there's something you'd like to try, if there's something you'd like to try, ask me, I won't say no, how could I? Coyness is nice, and coyness can stop you from saying all the things in life you'd like to. So if there's something you'd like to try, if there's something you'd like to try, ask me, I won't say no, how could I? Spending warm summer days indoors, writing frightening verse to a buck-toothed girl in Luxembourg. Because if it's not love, then it's the bomb that will bring us together. Nature is a language, can't you read? Nature is a language, can't you